Hi, Roman Daisel here with another video about the Lord of the Rings Strategy Battle Game, courtesy of Games Workshop. Going to be looking at my Fellowship of the Ring and the Watcher in the Water. So for those who don't know, the Fellowship of the Ring was formed shortly after the Council of Elrond, when they picked the companions of the Ring Bearer, who was Frodo, who was taking the ring to Mount Doom to destroy it. And on the trip they were deciding who was going to go with them, at least as far as over the Misty Mountains. And obviously Sam was going to go. Gandalf had decided to go. Aragorn had decided to go. Boromir was already heading that way. He was heading south, so he would join them as far as Rohan. And then Gimli and Legolas were going to go at least as far as they wanted to. Merry and Pippin just basically blackmailed them into letting them tag along. So you got 9 companions to match the 9 riders. The Watcher in the Water, he is a creature that came from the Underdeeps. How he got to where he was, no one knows. But what happened was he actually squirmed its way up through the cracks of the Underdeeps and managed to get outside of the Misty Mountains near the west gate of Holland, which was the boundary of western Khazad-dum or Moria. And while he got out, there was just a stream there, a swift-flowing stream. And what the Watcher did was he started tearing down the trees nearby and piling up boulders and made himself a nice little dam, little busy beaver, until he had a nice deep lake. And the Fellowship, when they came into that area of Holland, they noticed that the stream was no longer fast-flowing. It was pretty dry. And they wondered what happened, and lo and behold, they find out when they get there. So basically they're heading for the western doors of the Mines of Moria. And I have a little printout of what it looks like, as described by Tolkien. And it was pretty cool. Has the words, "Save friend and enter," which is pretty simple. I, Narvi, carved the doors, and Celebrimbor carved the runes. And it's got the high trees of the tree. It's got the trees of the high elves and Durin's crown and hammer. And 7 stars. So it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool door. Tolkien describes it pretty well. And in the movie, Peter Jackson did a good job. Also, Ralph Bakshi did a good job too in that one. Now, going back to the box set here. Now, the Fellowship of the Ring, I paid $60 at Fan of the Sport. I didn't have to pay the taxes on that, which is good. And these guys are all made of metal. So you get 9 figures, all metal. Fairly easy to paint, though I prefer plastic's easier to paint than metal. Metal has all these rough edges. The die-cast figures do, as opposed to the plastic ones. But I like the metal because there was nothing I had to actually glue on. They were all set in one mold. I pretty much did the color as faithfully to the book as I could. And you get 9 figures. The only thing I'm missing in this kind of set, I wish they had Build-A-Pony for this particular set. I know there is a Build-A-Pony figure with Sam, but it's very rare and people want a lot of money for it. It's not worth, I'm not paying $50, $60 for it. Sam can go without his pony. So anyway, these guys, after they tried to cross the Misty Mountains over the Pass of Carahadras, I know I'm mispronouncing that, they were forced back from a snowstorm because the mountain is is a sentient being. Like there's a spirit inside the mountain, or there's a spirit that is the mountain and doesn't like intruders, so he forced them off. That spirit forced them off the mountain with a snowstorm. So they have another choice. They either make for the Gap of Rohan, which is near Isengard and Saruman, or they can try and go under through Moria, which is what Khazad-dum has been called in the Dark Years. Khazad-dum is an old dwarf city, dwarf realm, and the dwarves were forced out sometime around 1975 of the Third Age, or was it 1980? Shortly after the fall of Arthedain, they were also forced out of their home. The dwarves were due to a nameless fear called Durin's Bane. So anyway, Gandalf convinces the company to go underneath through Moria. And to get there, they have to go to the West Gate. And that's where they come into play. So they're all at the West Gate. Gimli and Legolas are off to the side talking. Boromir's by himself. Gandalf is staring with Frodo. Sam's with his pony Bill. In the movie, it's Merry and Pippin who are throwing rocks in the water, and everyone tells them to stop. But really, it's Boromir who picks up a stone and throws it in. And then there's great rippling rings formed on the surface out beyond where the stone had fallen. Then they move slowly towards the foot of the cliff. And Frodo's kind of afraid of the pool, with good reason. And it was Mary who was on the right track with the words "say friend and enter," which is Milan. I know in the movie they give that line to Frodo. So anyway, just as they're about to go in, the Watcher in the water comes up and grabs Frodo, and then they have this huge fight. And Frodo gets away after Sam and everyone in Boromir hack away at the tentacles. Now in the movie they have it like they went in and they saw this battle between dwarves and goblins at the end of the hall. That never actually happened. There's no battle at the end of the West Gate. There's just an empty hall and passageways. And the Watcher grabs Frodo first of all the company. Anyway, let's go on to my Watcher in the water guy. He is all resin. It's one of the newer models. The original Watcher in the water was just a bunch of tentacles out in the air. I think you got 6 of them. You just got 6 tentacles that were attached to a base. Because in the book you actually never see the body. You never get to see the body, which is kind of sad. Even the Ralph Bakshi version doesn't have the body. Peter Jackson wanted to see it, so he decided to design it. And with a workshop, they came up with a creative design. Looks kind of like a squid, kind of like a huge Weta, something like that, a mix. And I tried to follow the color that Tolkien explained, a luminous glow, which makes sense because this thing would be feeding off fish in the dark, so its tentacles would probably glow fluorescent, so it would attract its prey. So that makes sense. Though how it would get enough to eat being in where it is, God only knows considering the size of the thing. So like I said, it's resin. It was not that hard to paint, pretty easy to paint, but the tentacles were hard as hell to put on. They were a big pain in the ass to put the 8 tentacles on. I tried super glue, I tried the modeling glue I usually use. I tried white glue, and then finally I had to use this bonding glue, yellowish bonding glue, to get them to stick on. Just a pain in the ass. So, and for color, like I said, I used a fluorescent. I put it white and then with a green. So I painted them white, and then I used a Hex-Wraith flame, as well as a Beoltan green to kind of give them that luminous glow, make it brighter. That didn't quite work out what I wanted, and then I made the rest of the body pretty much green because it's got to camouflage itself too. Now the stats for the Watcher in the water are kind of interesting. The main body only has a movement value of 3, which means it's no faster than a hobbit really. The tentacles, however, can snake out at 6 inches. Both the main body and tentacles have a fighting value of 6. While the strength of the main body is 5, the tentacles are a strength of 8. The main body has a defense of 8, while the tentacles only have a defense of 6. The main body has 3 attacks, while the tentacles each have 1. The main body can take 8 wounds, while the tentacles take 2. So the tentacles are pretty rubbery. It takes 2 swings with a sword to get through. And they all have a courage of 8, which is pretty important. So in other words, hunger overweighs fear. Well, I'm sure fire would definitely scare it off. This thing does invoke fear, especially when its main body is out of the water. And the tentacles can only be used near the water. It has to be touching water for some reason. And the tentacles act like a charge, almost like a cavalry charge. There are some other minor things that it can do. But all in all, it's a pretty cool piece. This is actually a pretty cool scenario. If you want to follow the Lord of the Rings in miniature wargaming, it's pretty cool to see what would happen. I played this before with a friend where I had an army of dwarves and he had the orcs. And we were fighting in a waterlogged area with a deep pool in the very middle. And in that pool was the Watcher in the water. And the pool was deep enough that it could reach the edge. You only had like an inch on the edges to go around or wade through the pool, which got deeper depending where you were. And the Watcher was waiting, so it didn't care. The Watcher could either go for the good guys or the bad guys. It's not picky. So in this case, it's actually more of a neutral character. It's not necessarily evil. It's just a huge creature that's looking for food, and it wouldn't care what it takes. Now the Watcher in the water, I actually bought this off Games Workshop web store. It was $65 free shipping to the store, which is no big deal. And I enjoy having this as a piece. I wish I could get the tentacle ones now, but again, people want too much money for 6 tentacles sticking out. Anyway, let me know what you think if you actually play the game and you have this particular model. I've seen different styles of painting. I have, and give a thumbs up if you like. And I'm going to keep putting out more and more of my stuff. Until next time, Roman Daisel, I'm out of here.